legislative intent of the legislature throughout has been a relationship between a biological male and a biological female, including special marriage act.
But Mr. Solicitor,
Number one.
there's a very important value judgment which you are making, that the very notion of a biological man is absolute, or that a notion of a biological woman is also an absolute notion.
Never change.
Which is incorrect.
Biological man means biological man. It's not a question of notion.
Positives of rights.
Yes, of course it is.
None of us.
There is no absolute concept of a man or an absolute concept of a woman at all. That's the argument in a broader context.
Biological man, my lord, means man only. It means, my lord, biological man.
Biological
It's not
man
a
is not a
matter of
definition
notion.
of what your genitals are. It's far more complex. That's the point.
We stop having rights if we are not a biological.
So even when the Special Marriage Act says man and woman, the very notion of a man and a notion of a woman is not an absolute, based on what genitals you have.
Honorable my lords, this is not contempt. ये trolling भी नहीं है, इरादा ये क्लिप का आपका कंटेम्प्ट करने का भी नहीं है. So don't take it otherwise. जैसे आपको फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच है, हमको भी फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच है. अभी ये जो सेम सेक्स मैरिज का जो केस चल रहा है ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट में, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बेंच इसमें बना है, इतनी इमरजेंसी और इतनी अर्जेंसी क्या थी? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल माय लॉर्ड्स, विद ऑल ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट, वी लव यू, वी रिस्पेक्ट यू. सवाल ही नहीं आता है. आपकी हम लोग इज्जत करते हैं, आपको रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, लेकिन सवाल पूछ रहे हैं, आपने ये जो बेंच बनाया 5 जज बेंचेस का, क्या ये सही है कि 5 में से 3 या 4 जो जजेस है वो क्लासमेट है, बैचमेट्स है लॉ कॉलेज के? ये बताइए आप. सेकेंडली, इस जैसे आप जो अभी जो हियरिंग चल रहा था उसमें बताया था कि मैन एंड वुमेन इज नॉट एन एब्सोल्यूट कंसेप्ट, इट इज नॉट जस्ट लिमिटेड टू जेनिटल्स, इट इज मोर देन दैट. आपने देखो, आप ये बहुत सारे जो कमेंट करते हो ड्यूरिंग द हियरिंग, इट इज क्रिएटिंग हैवॉक अक्रॉस द कंट्री. आप जब भी बोलते हो कि जो रिस्पॉन्सिबल पोजीशन के ऊपर जो भी लोग बैठे हैं, दे शुड मेक रिस्पॉन्सिबल स्टेटमेंट्स. इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पोस्ट के ऊपर जो लोग बैठे हैं, दे शुड मेक रिस्पॉन्सिबल स्टेटमेंट. तो सर जी, आप भी तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पोस्ट पे बैठे हो, तो यू डोंट यू थिंक यू शुड बी केयरफुल व्हाइल यू मेक एनी स्टेटमेंट्स और कमेंट्री ड्यूरिंग द प्रोसीडिंग्स, या फिर आप जब भी मीडिया कॉन्क्लेव में जाते हो? इनफैक्ट इट शुड नॉट बी, यू शुड बी अवॉइडिंग अटेंडिंग द मीडिया कॉन्क्लेव्स एंड जर्नलिस्ट क्वेश्चन आंसर. एनीवे, वो टॉपिक नहीं है. तो आपने ये जो स्टेटमेंट कहा, तो यू शुड आइडेंटिफाई योरसेल्फ सर. आप लोगों ने आइडेंटिफाई करना चाहिए कि वेदर यू आर मिस्टर, यू आर मिसेस, यू आर मिस, यू आर शी ही, या यू आर फीमेल या शीमेल, जो भी है, यू शुड आइडेंटिफाई योरसेल्फ सर. अगर आप इसमें हैं तो व्हाई यू शुड आइडेंटिफाई योरसेल्फ? बिकॉज देयर शुड नॉट बी एनी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. जैसे मैंने बताया, 3 या 4 लोग क्लासमेट्स थे. सी, नथिंग रॉन्ग इन बीइंग क्लासमेट्स ऑन द सेम बेंच, बट व्हाट यू हैव डन इज यू हैव कॉन्स्टिट्यूटेड अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बेंच, और आपने ऑलरेडी डिसाइड कर चुके हैं कि इसका वर्डिक्ट क्या होने वाला है. आप चाहते हैं कि ये जो स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट है उसमें मैन एंड वुमेन की जगह पे आप पर्सन रिप्लेस करना चाहते हैं. यू वांटेड टू रिप्लेस द वर्ड्स मैन एंड वुमेन विथ पर्सन. यू वांट टू ट्वीक द स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट. आपको स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट में यू वांट टू राइट इट डाउन या रीड इट डाउन, ऐसे आपको ये जो कन्वीनियंट शब्द का इस्तेमाल करते हैं, यू वांट टू रीड इट डाउन, यू वांट टू राइट इट डाउन, इट इज नथिंग बट यू वांट टू चेंज द स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट. आपको स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट में चेंज करना चाहते हो, आप बदलाव करना चाहते हो, वो आपका काम नहीं है सर. That is, as per our constitution, that work has been given to parliament. The parliament has the authority and all the rights in the world to make the laws, to amend the laws, to scrap the laws. वो उनका हक है. तो सर जी, आप ये constitution bench जो है, you are bypassing the parliament and you want to make the changes in special marriage act. ये आपका काम नहीं है सर. In fact, you are in contempt of the people of India.
नमस्ते, स्वागत है आपका इंडिया दिस वीक के नए एपिसोड में, और मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट आमना अंसारी.
Hi, this is Khalid Baig and welcome to yet another episode of India This Week by Amana and Khalid. अभिजीत, मैं दिल्ली आती पिछले हफ्ते, तुम वापस बीमार हो जाती.
क्या करूं? My RT-PCR is still positive, by the way, huh? So I can't go out. I'm feeling much better, but I'm still COVID positive.
So second time we decided to meet up in Delhi and tu bimar ho gaya. So next time we shouldn't plan to वापस bimar ho jaye.
We're cursed, man. We're cursed.
And there were these rumors कि तेरा कुछ झगड़ा हो गया है श्याम और उनके साथ, because we released a old video of yours and they were like, how come he's here and how come he's not there? So you want to put those rumors to rest. Everything's fine in
but
paradise.
no, but it's true. Shyam and Kushal and I have had a big fight because Shyam and Kushal are like terrible homophobes. He used to send me messages saying mote, kale, ganje, homo and faggot and whatnot. And I'm so upset by all of it. And I've decided to end my friendship with those two. So it's like it's like the discrimination against fair-skinned people like me and persons of girth like me, the horizontally expansive individuals, it's very real. There's an ongoing genocide against horizontally expansive people in India. There's a genocide against homosexuals in India. And, these two are foot soldiers. They're like the SS of the ongoing genocide in India. So, I'm not talking with them.
Right. Friendship with Kushal and Shyam over, new friends now, Amna and Khalid.
Yeah.
So, Abhijit, we're going to talk about your favorite person right now in India, Moonshine. We like that name you've given to Justice Chandrachud. Also, want your language to be less colorful because we want this for the future generation as well. I had someone, a kid ask me, what is all this happening? And we owe it to them. So, at least aaj unke liye kuch to maryada rakhiye in Amish Devgan style. Starting with this speech, Abhijit, which we saw, which went pretty viral for all the wrong reasons. I was also pretty flabbergasted that the CGI, Mr. Chandrachud, said that when one of the persons in, the lawyer said that, there's a male biology, there's a female biology. And Chandrachud said with full conviction that no, there is nothing absolute about sexes. It's there's a lot of fluidity there. There's a huge spectrum in between the two. Your reaction to that statement about gender fluidity?
The legislative intent of the legislature throughout has been a relationship between a biological male and a biological female, including special marriage act.
But Mr. Solicitor,
Number one.
there's a very important value judgment which you are making, that the very notion of a biological man is absolute, or that a notion of a biological woman is also an absolute notion.
Never change.
Which is incorrect.
The only
No.
biological man means biological man. It's not a question of notion.
Positives of rights.
Yes, of course it is.
None of us.
There is no absolute concept of a man or an absolute concept of a woman at all. That's the whole argument in a broader context.
Biological man, my lord, means man only. It means, my lord, biological man. It's
Biological
not a
man is
matter
not a
of
definition
notion.
of what your genitals are. It's far more complex. That's the point.
We stop having rights if we are not a biological.
So even when the Special Marriage Act says man and woman, the very notion of a man and a notion of a woman is not an absolute, based on what genitals you have.
See, my issue here really is that, Chandrachud has kind of queered the pitch. And I'll tell you why. Do you remember when decriminalization happened? What was it, 5-6 years back? Most Hindus supported it quite overwhelmingly. This time we're seeing a lot of the same people are opposing it. Okay. To their credit, even right-wing debate panels, Navika, Rahul, Arnab and all of them are actually supporting it against their viewers. Okay. But, I sat down and tried talking to these people and I can't have a coherent conversation with them. So friends of mine who they don't perceive a threat from, I guess, have been talking to them. And what's been emerging is that the big difference from now and then, at that point of time, gender ideology as you see it in America wasn't a big thing. It hadn't hit the public discourse in India so much at any rate. Today, at least for the last 4 or 5 years, Indians have been seeing what's been happening in America. They've been seeing how kids can't get tattoos without parent permission. They can't do this, that without parent permission. But they can gender transition and have, genital mutilating surgery without the parents even knowing about it. Okay. So there is this belief now that this is going to mirror what has happened in America, where, one set of things led to another set of things. And they're very clear that this has to be combated to prevent things like that kind of gender ideology coming into India. Now, what Chandrachud has done is he's literally given an aha, I told you so moment to everybody who believed that that was ultimately what was going to happen. And it doesn't help, when, you have this sort of leftist fascist mafia running the so-called LGBTQ whatever in leadership in India, where they literally monopolize, harass, and threaten everybody who doesn't fall in line. I don't know if you saw the kind of arguments that were put up, the blatantly homophobic arguments that were put up during a discussion this time round. I'm going to send it to you on WhatsApp. I want you to play it. And
that the Hindu Marriage Act is not an issue necessarily of personal law, it is statutory law. The Hindu Code did something that was not permitted in sacramental Hindu law, which is intercaste marriage, Sagotra marriage, divorce.
And to have the audacity to step up in a court of law and actually have the confidence to claim that.
Yes, she said it is statutory law because it goes against everything that Hindus believe in, which is caste, which is prohibition of widow remarriage, which is, discrimination between different castes. She obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but the import was that only, right? Because she's saying that it is statutory law because it's not based on Hindu scriptures as compared to other laws which are. I think this has been the way that arguments have been made in the Supreme Court since forever, and especially when it comes to Hindu society. Hindus have been bashed left, right and center, regardless of whether or not there is any truth to it. And I have been reading up on the Seattle caste ordinance, and it turns out that a lot of the literature that we are seeing today on caste atrocities is actually Orientalist. It's actually written by Christian missionaries who came to India to specifically convert Hindus.
Because Chandrachud doesn't live in India. In his mind, he lives in Washington, D.C. So he's giving you American rubbish that is completely out of context here. Okay. How do you think people are going to react? Now, if you remember, I've been warning against this for a very, very long time. You were given your rights because of the grace of the government. You doubled down on attacking the government. At some point, the government was also going to snap. This is kind of the worst case scenario that I expected, and that this is exactly what has happened. Okay. I think we need to sit down and have a long, long, hard look at what this so-called LGBTQ leadership of this country is, at their political agenda, at their sources of funding. And I think there is a need to declare foreign agents where and if we can.
Amna, you have a backup question for this?
I don't have a backup question. Before going into it, I just wanted to ask very basic thing. I don't think most of Indians do even understand what is fluidity, sexual orientation, and what is the gender. So can you just describe it in a very simple way so people can understand better?
Okay. So see, biologically, you're either a man or you're a woman or you're sexually dysmorphic, which is to say you have your genitalia do not conform to any one of these specific things, which happens. In the third group, you can have people who, because of that, identify as several different things. They can either think of themselves as a man, they can think of themselves as a woman. Even women can sometimes feel that they're more manly, like what we call butch women. Or in men, you can have people who are quite effeminate like me, who are like, what are referred to as chake, kind of thing. That's fine. The problem here is this has been taken to a whole next level by these people in America, where to compensate for social homophobia, which will not be comfortable with a man being with a man, and with said man not finding another man, goes into severe psychological depression and feels that he can only find another man if he becomes more of a woman. Physically transitioning to a woman, involving full genital mutilation and the creation of an artificial vagina. I'm just talking about men, but now you apply it to a woman. A woman can have an artificial penis and testicles. A sexually dysmorphic person can have, this thing. Now, one of my co-petitioners, Gopi, had won a case in the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court last year or the year before last, where the court banned gender affirmation surgeries till you were 18, till the child was mature enough to take that decision themselves. Because parents were going and getting it done to the kids. Now look, you need to feel comfortable in what you're born. You can't go around mutilating your genitals because society doesn't accept you. And if society doesn't accept you, mutilating your genitals is not going to get you that acceptance, because clearly the problem is much deeper than your genitals. So, this whole gender ideology is in fact deeply transphobic, deeply homophobic, child abuse ideology that seeks to create social tension in order to create vote banks and create victims where none exist. This is what Chandrachud was opening the door to. And today he complains about getting trolled because of it. Seriously? You're talking about validating child abuse and you're worried about getting trolled? Because in my book, if that is where your belief system is, you shouldn't be allowed anywhere near any kid, including his grandson. The man is a danger to his own grandchild if he believes that kind of garbage. Okay, this should bring, if we had a coherent social services system, this is where a grandparent would be put under enhanced watch to see to it that no abuse was eventuating. But he actually peddled that where there was no need to peddle it. The request was to make marriage gender neutral. What did he do? He brought in gender ideology, where instead of removing gender, he added another 64 genders to the whole thing. So first of all, he has cognitive issues. Second, he was playing mischief. Third, he's clearly been brainwashed by an extraordinarily dangerous ideology. And fourth, if he actually believes a single word of what he said, he shouldn't be allowed within 100 meters of any child under the age of 18.
Right.
Abhijit, one quick question. Amna, you want to go ahead first?
No, if you have a question after that, you can.
Yeah, sure. One quick question. Like you said, scientifically, there are just two sexes, a male and a female. That's a...
And there's sexual dysmorphia.
Right. Would transgender be a third sex, or would that also fall into male or female? Like some of them can be male, some of them can be...
that is sexual dysmorphia. So in India, it is recognized as third sex. So if you actually read the government legislation about it, it's one of the most significant and far-reaching identification of what the third gender in this country is. And it's one of the most progressive pieces of legislation I've seen, incidentally enacted by your fascist BJP government.
Okay. So what we understand three sexes, one male, one female, and third we can say transgender, which you saying sexual dysfunction.
Yeah.
Correct. Rest obviously L, G, B, and Q is not a sex at all. That's just then an orientation.
Correct.
Correct. Also, years back, Abhijit, I had seen a speech of yours. I guess it was one of the TED Talks, I'm not sure. And you said, being gay, I'm at the least oppressive stage of the ladder. It's the transgenders in India who are the most oppressed, is what you had said.
Correct.
So, taking that as a point, Abhijit, in very simple language, because this is something for the future generations as well, they are trying to understand, what is happening. So, what is LGBT that way?
Right now, cumulatively, it means absolutely nothing to me. Okay, because the way this is heading, every one of those categories, the L, the G, the B, and the T, all their agendas are now in conflict based on what we see in America. Okay. Before, it was a very similar agenda. Marginalized and scorned individuals, either because of their biology or because of their orientation, seeking equal rights. In America, it has gone beyond equal rights to now special rights. In India, where we haven't even achieved that, the fear now is of that second wave of rampant radical socialist leftist opinion coming and destroying everything. It's like, fourth wave feminism in America, so-called fourth wave feminism. Are Hindustan mein third wave feminism hi khatam kahan hua hai? We liberated all our women yet. You can't liberate women till the industrial revolution is complete, till you become a full manufacturing society where the only difference between a man and woman, which is physical strength, is negated through the application of chemical energy to the production process. Right? Because normally, Khalid Baig will be able to lift 20 bricks. Amana Ansari can only lift 10 bricks. But if you have a mechanical robot lifting the bricks, both Khalid Baig and Amna Ansari just need to push a button and a joystick to get that robot to lift 100 bricks each. That is how you become equal. Okay, it's been a social process because of the application of chemical energy to the manufacturing and production process. Hindustan abhi industrialized kahan hua hai, boss? तो तुम्हारा थर्ड वेव फेमिनिज्म ही खत्म नहीं हुआ है इधर. You moved on to fourth wave nonsense. Your LGBTQ still haven't been fully liberated, and you've already moved on to this bloody aggressive bullshit coming out of America. What the hell? And you tell me, what parent in their right mind looking at what has happened in America will not draw the conclusion because of A, B happened, therefore we cannot allow A to happen here, because if we allow A to happen here, then B will happen.
Right. Also, Abhijit, we want you to tell our
Second, you have seen the kind of blatant and open Hindu phobia at all these pride events. See, when you're going and asking somebody for something, it's your fundamental right, okay? It is owed to you. But you can't go around spitting on somebody's face and then expect them to support you. तुम्हारा हक है, ठीक है? तुम्हारा खाने का हक है. पर अगर तुमने आके मेरे मुंह पे थूक मारा, मैं क्यों तुमको वो खाना दूं? मैं क्यों ना जाके तुम्हारे खाने पे थूक मारूं? So this is the kind of bullshit where, the community has kind of shot itself. So I don't believe there's a community out here. I wash my hands of 99% of the so-called leadership of this community. Okay, they're reeking little farts whose entire lifestyle depends on milking this for all the money and fame that it's worth. But it is what it is.
Amna, you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask because West में जो चल रहा है ये डिबेट, इसमें काफी ज्यादा कन्फ्लिक्ट देखा जा रहा है कि जो वुमेन राइट्स की बात करती हैं उनके बीच में, और जो फ्लूडिटी के बारे में बात करते हैं। जेके रोलिंग के ऊपर भी एक इस तरह का अटैक हुआ था, where people are arguing now कि these people should also have the right to participate in the women game, go to the women toilet, and these kind of things are also surfacing. And somehow in all debate, I see the women are the loser in that, because how
Yes.
a woman supposed to compete with a men body? I mean,
With
he
a
considers
biological
himself.
man.
Yeah,
With a
exactly.
biological man. A man with a full-grown penis and testicles can actually go compete in women's sports. And like we discussed, sports is one of those things where chemical energy has not been applied to the process. See, women and men competing in motor sports, I can understand, because it depends on the bike and your skill. But in physical exercises like swimming, badminton or tennis,
The other day, boxing.
where does this boxing too? And these men are going into women's sports and they're thrashing the women hollow. How is this fair? It is not just the biggest threat to children. It is the mainstreaming of child abuse. It is also the biggest threat to female liberation. And also the biggest threat to gays and lesbians. And transgender people. You know why? Because 99% of transgender people in this country are still in the process of being liberated, where Yogi has opened a university for them and given them, job opportunities at the Gurgaon Metro and things like that, Noida Metro, sorry, and things like that. And you're suddenly interjecting a debate that will short circuit that entire process. Why? Just because some creep sitting in Delhi wants to make some money and get some foreign funding.
Abhijit also wanted to play the devil's advocate here. We live in a very highly religious, conservative society in India. I mean, majority within the country are religiously conservative, right? They look at LGBTQ movement as a mental disorder, right? For them, lesbians being normal women with sexual organs of a woman, being attracted to a fellow woman is some mental disease the lesbian has. Similarly, for a gay, a man having sexual organs of a man, not being attracted to a woman, but being sexually attracted to a man is, again, a symptom of a mental disease. On a slightly, funny note, I've always thought that why is a bisexual in there? Because he's having best of both the worlds. How is he oppressed? Okay, that's a different thing. Yeah.
So I don't think I agree with that, because
sorry, I'll just complete. Transgender, what I feel, even the conservative religious people feel that ye to bichare physically hi bachpan se there is a problem where, if it's a man, there is some organ issue. If it's a woman, there is some organ issue. But rest, you even saw petitions by the religious clergy, whether that was the Maulana associations in India, whether that was the church, whether that was the other, except even Hindu conservative parties saying ki, how can we allow these guys? This is, not allowed in our religion. Abrahamics being even more brutal, right? The West, they are more enlightened, but here the church clearly, applied. Jamaat went. They said, no, this is wrong. So, want your thing on both these, and also if you could, what exactly is a transgender? If he's a male, what are the organ?
Okay, too many questions in one, boss.
Sorry.
Let's go. You've clubbed in like one thing at a time. So, in my experience, I've found quite the opposite. I've seldom come across anybody who's found homosexuality is a disease in India.
Okay.
The loudest are usually the ones filing the petitions in the court, but they're not the majority. Because, on average, when I came out in Mylapore Brahmin society, which is, I think, as conservative as it gets, everybody was like, Oh yeah, we already knew, no problem. Right. Of course, this is me extrapolating my lived experiences. It can be different for different people. A lot of people that I know were like, the father separately told the son, बेटा मैं मान लेता हूं पर अपने माँ को मत बता क्योंकि तेरे माँ का दिल टूट जाएगा. And माँ separately told the son, बेटा मैं तो मान लेती हूं पर अपने बाप को मत बताइयो तेरा बाप का दिल टूट जाएगा. And the guy was like, have you two spoken to each other because you both kind of accept it? There have been many instances. Okay. Actual homophobia, like you've seen in the West, kids being kicked out of the house and things like that, disinherited, is extremely rare. Unlike, say, the West. Because remember, in the West, there is an actual harsh religious sanction against this. And yet, isn't it curious that the Ottoman Empire actually decriminalized homosexuality 20 years before Imperial Russia criminalized it? 20 years before. The Ottomans, the French were the first to officially decriminalize it after the French Revolution. Right? About 100 years later, the Ottomans decriminalized it. And 20 years later, the Russians, Tsarist Russia, criminalized it. Right? So there is this sort of dichotomy even there. If you go to Arab countries, for example, there's some semblance of a gay culture because, till you're kind of married, it's just accepted that boys will be experimental. Okay, there's lots of shades of this, which you don't get in the Indian debate because the Indian debate tends to focus on the most regressive types who have capital in going and investing in a petition to stall decriminalization. And remember, in that particular petition, the decriminalization petition, the RSS actually supported decriminalization. Unlike the BJP, which said we leave it to the courts, the RSS actually came out and said we support decriminalization. Right. Here, the RSS hasn't opened its mouth. I think they've come out against it, if I'm not mistaken. As has the BJP. I mean, the BJP is the government version that we've seen. And a lot of what we're seeing here is very much about their experiences post-decriminalization. So, we need to remember, because institutions are made up of human beings. Human beings react to stimulus. After you decriminalize, you're called bigots and homophobes and this and that and free Palestine and free Kashmir. At some point, somebody's going to crack and say, Maro. I totally understand where that's coming from. It's quite justifiable, technically, if you look at it. Not to me. I mean, I shouldn't be punished for what certain other, lumps of shit did. But that's the way it works, unfortunately.
Right. Amana, you have a question?
I just wanted to add, like, the society I come from, I have seen LGBTQ people getting really discriminated against. Like, most of the people won't be even able to accept or say it out loud in the society, that we belong to that category. And even there are people who don't even understand. Now things has changed because of internet. People started understanding, and also from a religious background where there is no acceptance of it. Most of the conservative people, most of the even religious people don't understand. They see it as a disease. उनके लिए समझ ही नहीं आता उनको कि ऐसा हो भी सकता है, ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है.
But again, let me take you back like a few hundred years, where the entire court culture, it was known as the Nawabi shock. Ordinary log आदमी औरत करते थे, पर जो नवाब और सुल्तान होते थे वो बस मर्द करते थे.
हाँ, उनको अलाउ था.
It was called Nawabi shock.
I know.
Right. There are so many love letters or love poems from man to man in Persian literature, in Central Asian literature, in Urdu literature. Hinduism itself has so many examples of it, boss.
I know.
So, this is a very, even homophobia, if you look at it, is a very, very modern phenomenon. I don't think people really understand what homophobia is till they go to Christian Africa, where homophobia is its worst, where if even a rumor spreads that you're a homosexual, you're dead.
Abhijit, wanted to understand from you, if you could explain, because people still, it's a basic concept of transgender. What is the physical dysfunction if it's a male transgender, if it's a female? And
It's not a dysfunction, it's dysmorphia. Which is to say, morphia is, there is the male physical form and the female physical form.
Okay.
And when one does not have either of the functions or a mixture of both the functions or a lack of one of the functions of either, it can be any permutation or combination of it, that makes a person a trans person. Okay.
Is there a male trans person and a female trans person?
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, a male trans person, I mean, it really depends on how you define it. A male trans person could have no testicles.
Okay.
A male trans person could have disproportionately small testicles. A male trans person could have, and at that point, you don't know if it's a male or a female, where the clitoris begins to resemble a penis. All kinds of different, where a female trans person could be where somebody has a vagina with testicles. There are many, many, many different things that are possible. So dysmorphia, not dysfunction, it's not dysfunction, it's dysmorphia, it's something genetically that's happened, is basically something that is not conforming with the XY and the XX chromosome stereotype.
Okay.
The problem there is, in Indian society, this was actually celebrated at one point of time as something divine. It's the gift of the gods. Today, because of the criminalization and a homosexual will not be disinherited and thrown out of the house. A sexually dysmorphic child will be given away to the hijra even before, to the hijra qaum of that particular place. Even before they're 4 or 5 months old. The mother doesn't even want to breastfeed the child. Okay. It is far worse. It is far, the trauma of a trans person in India is horrific beyond belief. And to trivialize it the way the Chief Justice did is sick. What he did is mentally diseased. He has put them in the firing line when he had absolutely no right and business doing so. The man is sick. He doesn't understand the consequences of his actions. And if you're at 60 plus and you don't understand the consequences of your actions, you certainly don't deserve to be a Chief Justice.
Right. Abhijit, what is Q? Now saying addition. Okay.
I wanted to add one thing here. So, like, I was talking about the society, like, I have been grown. So, the Abhijit, he was saying that dysmorphia, I mean, jo log hijre hote hain. I've never seen any anger towards them. Even people used to believe that they are blessed in a different way. They will definitely go to Jannah, and you should be very nice to them to get their blessing. And घर पे भी बच्चे होंगे तो उनको बुलाया भी जाता था पैसे देने के लिए, सब चीजें होती थी. But there has been
but there's been a very significant shift in that attitude in the last 30-40 years. लोग डरते हैं उनसे. बच्चे चोरी कर लेंगे हमसे. बच्चों का genitals काट डालेंगे चोरी करके.
To make them like them.
So, the same Jewish blood libel that Jews will steal Christian martyr child on the Shabbat and sacrifice it and drink their blood is kind of applied to the trans community. They will steal our children, mutilate their genitals and make them one of theirs.
Yeah. So,
and the problem is when you have a marginalized society like the trans people, it's fallen into a lot of crime and prostitution and things like that, which, has kind of added up the sort of stereotypes and the negative imagery associated with them.
Yeah. Yeah, so आगे मैं ये बोलना चाह रही थी कि वो accepted था, but people never understand कि how you can be born like a proper girl and have attraction towards women, and how you can be born as a proper man and have so gay and lesbian accepted नहीं था. So that's how I have been grown up. And अब जाके इसके बारे में लोग बात कर रहे हैं, but still people, normal ordinary people don't understand or accept it, and people have to hide this orientation. So this was the point I wanted to add. I think Khalid, आप अपना question ले लो, so I will ask.
I
after
also
that my
wanted
question.
to add, Abhijit, that we can, with authority, say this, that the average Muslim in India and even things is very clear as far as theology is concerned, his religious belief is concerned, that whether it's L, whether it's G, these are mental diseases. This is not some normal thing. He's more sensitized towards the transgender, feeling that the transgender gets a lot of discriminated because the physical problems that he has nothing to do with it. And he does even the most religiously conservative. Maybe because in your case, there is a privileged background that you come from, and there is that kind of evolved mindset where they were fine with it. But I'm sure we can say this with authority, and it shows in the actions as well. Whether it was the church, whether it was the mosque, they are clear about it that we are going to resist whatever these guys are talking about. And we see that in our everyday lives, not people generally who are bigoted, but are sure that that's what Abrahamic faiths very categorically say, that this is sinful and this is a problem of the mind. So want to, Abhijit, also understand in LGBT, now we've had this other category, queer. What is queer and how is it different from all these?
Look, I don't use LGBTQ plus and all that crap. I ended LGBT bus.
Okay. So all that is an addition.
I am not going in for all this bloody bullshit, because anything beyond LGBT is bullshit.
Right. So, obviously, on a lighter note, why is the bi there? Because, like I said, it's best of all the worlds.
There's lots of jokes within the gay and lesbian community that bisexuals are basically either gay or lesbian people just pretending to be deluded.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a category at one point of time. I haven't met a person who identifies as bisexual in a very, very, very long time.
And it's weird, right? Like the B should not be there. It's like, I'm oppressed, I get attracted to both. And you're like, how are you oppressed?
Do you know somebody, a friend of mine, I think, it was Samir Saran. You know Samir Saran,
Yeah.
ORF.
Yeah.
He was in San Francisco for some conference. And he had seen LGBT with about 12 things added to it. The last one was M. Do you know what the M stood for? Muslim.
Okay.
Yeah. So LGBT plus now includes Muslim in some parts of California.
Yeah.
I think it should just be
LGBTQ Muslim
LGT.
community.
It should be LGT.
I also think it should be LGT, but anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Last question, Abhijit. There is this petition in front of the Supreme Court where the LGBT is calling for same-sex marriage. Now, clearly, majority of India is not ready for it. And there is backlash, especially from the second largest community, third largest community, which is the Muslims and Christians. Sizable section
Also
of Hindus.
Let's not forget, there is from the largest community as well.
Yeah, but sizable, but less resistance than what you see from the second and third, from the Abrahamics, right? You also
Well,
are
I mean,
a part
to
of
be
the
fair,
I didn't hear anyone
not
from
all-
Christian community.
not all three have,
churches-
none of the all three have gotten violent.
True.
So it's fine.
Right.
Even
No,
the
Amna,
first time, nobody got
the church
violent.
did say that it's sinful and they object to it.
Okay.
So even the Hindu organizations have said that.
But it's so amazing that Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, everybody came together on this issue.
Yeah.
Everyone is a
Truly,
bhai.
Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, hum sab hai bhai in this particular issue. Huh?
Right. And bhai, pun intended, we are only bhai.
Yeah.
Right. So, Abhijit, you are also involved in the petition, what I understand, for the same-sex marriage, right? So, and now the central government has said that we'll give it to the states. Like BJP is playing it smart. Ki batao apna apna. You know, hum kyun akele bukte. Where is it right now? What's happening around it?
So, look, there are three things that the BJP has done. I'm still very upset with them, but I kind of understand what's happening. First is they're using this as a Trojan horse to introduce UCC, Uniform Civil Code. Ultimately, they wanted to get to that place where it becomes, where the Supreme Court gets trapped into, they'll make it under the Special Marriage Act, and then Hindus and Muslim and Christian gays will protest that they want to retain their identity, and therefore under equality, it has to be given to everybody, and therefore Uniform Civil Code will be introduced. Two, Tushar Mehta, who's arguing the case, he's a Rottweiler. He attacks. Have you seen how unusually sweet and polite he's been during the hearings? Everybody's been really surprised by how not aggressive he's been. He's allowing everybody. Normally, he would be interrupting and hectoring everybody. He's not doing that this time. Right. Third, there is genuine confusion within the BJP as well about the trans community, because they feel they've done a lot to empower the trans community, and they're not seeing the trans community come out the way they should against the so-called LGBT leadership, intellectual English-speaking leadership, the way they expected them to. So as far as they see it, there is no political dividend. There is no any kind of dividend in supporting this, unless and until it results in, the Uniform Civil Code at the end of the day.
Amna, your question?
I had a very different question, like जेंडर फ्लूइडिटी के ऊपर, अगर ये जेंडर्स रिकॉग्नाइज हो जाते हैं इंडिया में, अगर हो जाते हैं तो लॉ किस तरह से काम करेगा ऑन दिस जेंडर, बिकॉज वी हैव बीन recognizing only two gender, और law उसी की बेस पे काम करता है.
No, we've already recognized the third gender. The third gender is already recognized as per law. Since 2016 or 17, it is already recognized as per law. And there's a university that's been opened for them in UP, etc., etc. There are now job opportunities open to them. There is a lot more required for the third gender, yes, because they really need empowerment and help given the trauma that they've been through. It'll happen. It'll happen slowly.
But they are not recognized in the marriage construction.
They're not recognized in marriage. So you see, this is what it comes down to. Unki kya galti hai? See, at least for me or a lesbian, you can say, you chose this. It's not choice. It's how it happened, whether we like it or not. But assume it is. एक हिजड़े की क्या गलती है कि he or she was born the way they were born? Right. So there are very significant moral issues at play here as well. Now, I'm very uncomfortable with morality as an issue because, morality varies from person to person. It varies from community to community. It varies from culture to culture and things like that, because it's a very sort of subjective argument. But there is the question, there are so many questions of equality wrapped up here. Ultimately, it is going to end up becoming the UCC. Look, let's face it, about 2 years from now, whether anyone likes it or not, gay marriage in India will be a reality, but it will most probably be under a uniform civil code.
That's better.
All right. So I think we leave the viewers with this thought that what Mr. Chandrachud said was completely dangerous, as Abhijit says. There is nothing scientifically that proves gender fluidity. And primarily, as Abhijit in one of his talks has also said, and what he's reiterated, it's the transgenders we need to have much more sensitization for. And they can be in the firing line for all this. And we hope we've been able to leave something for the current and future generation with someone like Abhijit explaining that what LGBT movement is, what the current case in front of the Supreme Court with same-sex marriages, and in context and background of Chandrachud's very, very dangerous comments. So do let us know what you thought about the entire episode. Do like, share, subscribe, press that bell icon button. Only then you'll get the notifications. And yeah, have a great weekend. And Eid Mubarak in advance. And thank you, Abhijit, for joining
Eid
us.
Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak only to all those people who are planning on sending me biryani and bara kebabs and all kinds of kebabs. If you're not sending me kebabs and biryani, no Eid Mubarak to you. Tata bye.
I can't send from London.